Partlow is a global artist, a composer, a producer, and a multi-instrumentalist who's just released a new album called Renaissance Man. I talk one-on-one with Herb for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Herb Partlow, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Quintin, thank you so much, man. Second time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I have truly arrived.
But no, you made it in life beyond this.
Oh, I don't know about that, my friend.
But I brought you back on for the second time for Quintin's Close-Ups because obviously you're a composer, a producer, a multi-instrumentalist,
yes, sir,
and a global artist.
Yes, sir.
Let me ask you, what would be the title of your life right now if you were to put it in a musical album?
Well, actually, my new single is the appropriate title. It's called Renaissance Man. I'm a bit of a Renaissance man. I dabble in a lot of things.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And what got you from being all this to now saying, hey, I want to release this album called The Renaissance Man?
Well, it's been a journey, per our last interview. I've been in the music industry for four decades now. Started out as an on-air radio personality, first-generation rapper. Then I moved into music production and audio engineering, mastering. So I love it. That's what I do.
That's what you do. So for 4 decades, Herb, what is the biggest difference about music in your mind?
Well, the advent of the internet and then just overall the technology. When I was coming up, you had to go to the big studio to get the big sound because of all the hardware. And then once we got into the personal computers and, synthesizers, and now a person can have a laptop, an Apple laptop, any laptop actually, some music software and a mic, and you can make it happen. Drake's primary producer, a guy named 40, he's traveling around with his headphones, his laptop, and even when they're on the road, they record music.
Wow. How did you adapt to this change?
Me, well, I came out of college at a wonderful time, 1983, and went into the business world, and they had just created this hot new thing called the IBM PC. So I adapted very quickly. I started working with software. I remember when there wasn't Microsoft. It was WordStar, WordPerfect. Sure. Then Microsoft came along. We used to use Lotus 123 for spreadsheets, long before Excel. So I've always kind of had an aptitude and adaptability when it came to music. Software. Period.
And musically, what else are you adapting to right now?
Well, as I told you before, it's interesting. I've embarked on this contemporary smooth jazz career, but I don't really like jazz that much. It's a weird thing. I started out as a hip hop artist and producer. I still love hip hop music and R&B music, but that's why my whole marketing angle, which I think has worked to my advantage, my marketing tagline is "This is jazz music for a new generation." So I incorporate and fuse elements of hip hop, funk, along with the jazz. A lot of my arrangements they're very jazzy on top, but underneath it might be a trap beat, which is something you hear in a lot of rap music. So I'm trying to do something different.
So who is your audience?
That's an interesting thing. I do appeal to your traditional smooth jazz artists. Like I've gotten a lot of exposure on smoothjazz.com. You got to understand the music industry as we look at these genres. Hip hop, rap / R&B is predominant selling music in the world today. And as I've always told people, my first music teacher, my older brother, he didn't adapt to the hip hop too well. And I said, well, just look at the history of music. Youth always prevails.
Yes.
And so when you look at the pie chart of music sales by genre, in 2013, jazz made up about 2% of that. At that time, rock was king with 32%. Pop, new country, R&B, hip hop was kind of clustered around 10 to 13%. Fast forward to 2021, 22, hip hop rap is the predominant selling music with about 28% of that pie chart. But when you go to jazz, from from 2013 to 2018, it went from 2% to 1.1%. 2021 to 22, it's only 1%. So on some levels, it's a bit of a dying art commercially. But that 1 to 2% still represents millions of consumers. And that's where the global part comes in, because there are a lot of people who love jazz and smooth jazz all over the world. So again, for me, when you talk about the audience, smoothjazz.com, because it's a smaller genre, we're talking 1 to 2%, not 30%. It's not as many consumers totally, but because of that, smoothjazz.com is, again, the predominant platform. They have 2 continuous 24-hour stations. All of the major artists are on there. They have the charts. So I'm on the same playlist daily with people like Boney James, Gerald Albright, Latest Groove, Paul Hardcastle, one of my guys I love. So I'm competing with those guys.
What is that competition right now in your field?
You mean in this particular genre of
Yes,
music? The names I mentioned. Gerald Albright. Matter of fact, interesting story. I went to the University of California, Riverside. His wife, who was his girlfriend at the time, was a student at UC Riverside, and he went to the University of Redlands. So I was first exposed to him when his band came to play during a lunchtime deal at Riverside. It's like, who's this brother with the big fro playing the bass and playing the sax? And he's very talented. I went to school, grew up with Patrice Rushen.
Oh, yes.
Periodically, I'll see a commercial or video, one of her hit songs, "Forget Me Nots." He's doing the sax solo on that one. So Gerald is he's kind of way up there, if you will, as far as the top of the food chain with smooth / contemporary jazz. Again, people like Boney James, Youth Groove. There are a lot of guys out there. I'm probably missing several, but a guy named D. Lucas, who I've gotten to know, I've never met him, but online, we're on the charts together. We always encourage one another. So yeah, I'm competing with I'm on the same playlist with those guys. So.
How do you stay on those charts?
Making good music, and well, that's first. But like with any business, it comes down to the marketing and promotion of it. So I know how to market and promote. I know how to run a professional radio campaign. Leverage social media, of course.
Sure.
I do press releases, and I don't just try to call this paper or that paper. I use Newswire for my press releases, and the reason I do that. From my corporate experience, I do a thing called best practices analysis. And so when you look to do something, say, okay, what do the best in class do? So I saw, Bank of America, Procter & Gamble, and Universal Music, they use Newswire. So, okay, I'm going to use Newswire. And it's worked for me.
How do you incorporate that corporate experience with your musical experience?
Yeah, very interesting. I'm weird like that because they seem like 2 totally dichotomous things. But the fact that I have both helps me be a little more efficient. See, most people who are in music, and I actually wrote an article for a magazine in 2013, and the title was The Musical Ledger, and metaphorically speaking. But on the left side of the ledger is this thing called the musician's mentality. And on the right side of the ledger is this thing called the music business. And the musician's mentality is all about the music, the passion, the art, being gifted on your particular instrument or axe, as they call it, or singing skills, rapping skills, live performances, all things music is what you have in artistry. But on the other side of the ledger is this thing called the music business. And the music business is a very legal business. And it's about very complex business, very cutthroat business, very competitive business. So it's about compulsory licensing, mechanical licensing, copyrights, publishing, synchronization. These are the things that you need to know. So again, melding the corporate with the creative, I'm a bit of a hybrid. And it worked, so I've been able to kind of merge the two.
Wow. Yeah. So, which is better for you, the mentality version of it or the business version of it?
Oh, definitely the business. That's where I lean to. And when you said the mentality of it, meaning the musicianship, I'm a creative. I I kind of went, because I'm a composer, producer, and engineer. Really more producer, because the producer is the guy who, and that producer means many things. Like Clive Davis is a producer, but he doesn't play anything. Whereas Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis from that era of music that you like, those guys actually played and composed the music. Ultimately, the producer is the person who has the final say on the product. Just like Puffy. Puff Daddy's a producer, but I doubt that he's playing any instruments or anything. So I have that creative side, but I definitely more of a business person. So, and it is called the the business of music, you know.
And what will it be that business of music in the next 5 to 10 years in your mind?
Ooh, that is a good question. So now we're in the era of streaming.
Yeah.
Great for the consumers. You pay a subscription, listen to all the music you want. But if a person gets an artist or whoever owns the copyright gets 1 million streams, that sounds like a lot, right?
Yeah.
It's only about $4,000 on Spotify, so it's not a lot of money. But 88% of all music revenue now comes from streaming services. So in the future, I think technology will continue. There are multiple revenue streams in music. I don't see it being too much different in the next 5 years, though. Oh, but as I speak out loud, there's this thing coming called the metaverse.
Huh.
And, you see where Facebook changed their name to Meta. Metaverse is almost like a virtual reality platform or platforms. And where that's headed, music can be played and their meetings can be had and their concerts can be watched in the metaverse. So that's that. Now that you asked me, it just came to me. The metaverse or virtual reality is more futuristic, and that's where we're headed than where we are today. You can even buy digital real estate in the metaverse. So that's where we're going to be. Yeah, and that makes you say, huh?
Yeah.
And this is the early phases of it.
Right.
But I have some associates in Las Vegas I work with, and they're delving deep into the metaverse.
And when will you adjust to that?
Oh, well, I'm riding along. I'm taking notes.
Okay.
I'm taking notes. Yeah, I'm riding right along.
And speaking of Spotify, if I were to look at your playlist today, what would be on that?
Well, I don't, Spotify will algorithmically create playlists called like a Herb Partlow music, and it will include a lot of these artists I mentioned to you who fit that similar genre vein of music. So again, it'll be people like D. Lucas, and I should be much better at these names. Like I said, huge group, Boney James, Gerald Albright, Chris Big Dog Davis, who's not necessarily a name you know, but I really like him because he's a producer behind a lot of the jazz artists. Peter White, who's a great guitarist. I've seen him perform several times. It'll be artists in a similar vein of music.
Going back to metaverse, Mr. Herb.
Uh-oh.
Which genre would benefit from this the most?
Well, right now, I mean, like I always, like I said, my first music teacher, my older brother, rest in peace, youth always prevails. That's why I call it pop culture, and through the history of entertainment, movies, television, music. So right now, it's the beat, it's the hip hop music that rules. You see the last 2 Super Bowls, and boy, there's a lot of back and forth about, this sucks, this performance sucks, this is great, but that's the beauty of life. Everybody has an opinion. I've always said, one man's trash is another man's treasure, and vice versa. So I think right now I can't foresee. I mean, EDM music, electronic dance music, is very popular. I could probably dabble into that a little more, given what I do.
All right, we're just seeing who's in here.
Oh, that's all right. Doing an interview.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say still the whatever the youth are into. Right now, that jumps out to me: your hip hop, rap, R&B, and the what was that, EDM. EDM is very popular, but there's so many genres. Because speaking of the Spotify, to market your music on there, the key to making money with streaming is to get on playlists. So there are platforms where you can pitch to playlist curators, and that's how you get your songs. Once you get on a playlist, you're going to get that continual opportunity to stream or be discovered by new listeners. So again, the electronic music, the hip hop, rap, I think, and R&B are going to be your predominant. But again, the reason I brought that up, there's so many genres and subgenres. And like I said, one person's treasure is another man's trash, and vice versa.
So what are those new listeners who are discovering your music right now?
Well, again, given my marketing tagline, this is jazz music for a new generation. What I'm trying to do is attract a younger audience. That's why in a lot of my music, when I say I have a trap beat, that catches the ear of a younger person. It's not now among some of my friends. There's a Sirius XM watercolors, which is your traditional smooth jazz. Some people call it like elevator music, which is not a compliment per se. But there's some truth to that. Whereas my music's jazzy, but it's got a harder edge, and you can actually bump your head to it. You listen to Renaissance Man, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it's got a nice beat. It's smooth, it's soothing, but it's got a nice beat to it. So hope I answered your question.
And speaking of which, of course, kind of in the next couple of months, you're releasing another song. It's an R&B funk single that features Tora Wolshine on vocals, and the song is titled "Ride or Die."
Yep.
What got you from Renaissance Man to Ride or Die?
Well, I've been wanting to get back into the more mainstream again, the jazz. That's 1-2% of the market share, if you will. So R&B, a little more mainstream, trending towards hip hop. It's a little bit more mainstream. And again, I think I sent the song. I don't know if you heard it, but I'm playing my bass guitar as predominant. I really use inspiration from Sly and the Family Stone. I want to thank you for letting me be myself. So it's very similar to that in the funk. And then through some associates of mine, I met this wonderful artist, Tora Wolshine.
Oh, yes.
Tora was on the X Factor, I believe, and was mentored by Simon Cowell. And she's been plying her craft for quite some time, so I was thrilled I got to meet her. Haven't met her face-to-face like a lot of people I work with. But, we agreed. I sent her a few tracks, and then she came back to me with, like, this whole arrangement. I'm like, wow, okay, I can work with this. And then my whole model has been very similar to a Quincy Jones, and let me be clear, by no means am I comparing myself to the great Quincy Jones. But he would put out albums, and they were Quincy Jones albums. But he would feature all these different talented people like James Ingram, like Greg Fillinganes, like Rod Temperton, who wrote a lot of the hit songs with Michael Jackson, et cetera, et cetera. So I do a similar, that's my model. So this is going to be a Herb Partlow song featuring Tora Wolshine, but she's a fantastic artist. There's a group out of Vegas that I do some consulting work with that did a production deal with her, so she's got a ton of songs, and I've actually done the mastering on all of her songs. Because again, with me, I'm a bit of a hybrid. I'm a Renaissance man, so I'm a mix engineer, audio engineer, and I'm a mastering engineer, and I've been doing it since 2003. So I kind of know what I'm doing by now. A little trial and error.
Yes.
But I mastered all of some of these recent songs. I think they did about 18 or 20 songs. She is a fantastic artist. I feel really blessed to be able to have her on that song, and I'll be putting that out later. Gotta pick the right time, but I want to show a little bit more funky side. Like I told you last time, I like bass instruments, my first instrument. And, that's where I probably shine most. So,
but then you are this hybrid Renaissance man. How do you continue to have that model with this music industry the way it's going in the next 10 years?
Because I've always adjusted and morphed with it. Again, as my daughter's a grown woman now, but coming up in her teens and 20s, I would listen to the same stuff that she did. I mean, at one point she would say, "So what are you listening to, Dad?" Not so much now. It's probably more the other way around. But I've always, I still listen to the popular music of today. And I remember our last interview, I mentioned a few names. You're still stuck in the 90s.
Yeah, I don't know any of those names.
Great era of music for sure. But, you know, I listen to all the top artists from Megan Thee Stallion to Cardi B to Migos to Drake and Nicki Minaj and, you know, NBA young boys. Yeah, so to the younger people watching this, like, I know what's up. Yeah, so I keep my ear to the streets. Yeah, and I could do that kind of music, and eventually I'll probably start producing some hip hop music again.
Wow. You know. And what else are you keeping your ears to the streets when it comes to music?
Well, I'm leaning now into the EDM because it's such a big, you know, again, the businessman of me, to thinking ahead, learning more about EDM, listening to some more of the EDM, because that's a big global genre. A lot of the music you might hear in a nightclub, you know, that fast beat per minute pulse of music. I want to, you know, delve and stretch out into that a little more. Because I know, like with anything in business in particular, you have to stay sustainable. You have to be nimble. You have to be able to morph and adjust. So I've always been good at that. I'm an old man now, but somewhere inside here, I don't feel it. I don't let it take over.
No, you shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
Well, Herb Partlow, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you. Like I said, being on Quintin's Close-Ups twice, I truly have arrived.
And you'll be back.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.